Hello, sir. You organized today in Bucharest SAS Analytics Day. First of all, let's talk a little bit about what SAS is doing nowadays when the telco industry is evolving so much.
Thank you. SAS is the largest privately held software company in the world. We use analytics for over 40 years. So you can imagine that when it comes to all those terms that we hear today about machine learning and artificial intelligence are terms that are very common for SAS because we're doing that and we're providing solutions to our customers for many years around the area of analytics. Of course, the telecom industry is one of the industries that, let's say, have been the pioneers in the area of analytics because due to the fierce competition, they are forced to use analytics for many different aspects. And SAS has very interesting applications of analytics in major telecom operators around the globe. I can also give you some examples, if I may, either from the network, let's say, world of telecom industry or from the CRM world. So starting from the CRM, from customer interactions, customer experience, we have applied analytics in order to predict customer behavior when it comes to churn. So these models have been built for many years so that we know beforehand when a customer may leave our operator and go to another one, or when it comes to calculating the propensity to buy a certain product that we're going to launch. So these are very standard advanced analytics that we've been doing for many years. Also, when it comes to customer link analysis, to identify social networks, not social in the sense of Facebook or Twitter or something like that, but let's say the social network of the subscriber within the context of the other subscribers that he is in contact with. This allows us to understand how important is this specific individual in the network and what will be the effect if he leaves the network. So these are very standard examples in this area. Another also important customer-centric application of analytics and machine learning is with text analysis. So we presented today many examples where we have used text analytics from SAS in order to understand what are the topics that the customers are talking about. And we have worked with telco operators, especially in this area, when it comes to the trouble tickets, the fault resolution, and the whole process when it comes to a customer calling at the call center and saying that he has a problem. So all these analysis can be done automatically to understand the topic and also the sentiment, if it's something positive or negative. And of course this extends to the actual social media as well. For example, real-time understanding what is the pulse of the public when it comes to our company. So in real-time understanding, analyzing all these texts from social media and providing a consolidated feedback on what is the opinion of the public. But then you also have the network world, which is, I think, a very important area, if not even more important, because at the end of the day, it's all about the network. And there we have applied analytics either for measuring the quality of the network, from simple benchmarking analysis, to more advanced analytics when it comes, for example, to capacity planning. So we applied forecasting techniques to predict the congestion of a cell, and this also relates to scenarios when it comes to periods of time with high seasonality. So in those cases we need to understand what will be the expected traffic and therefore be able to prevent the congestion. So we apply advanced analytics forecasting in order to predict this kind of behaviors. Another interesting example here is when it comes to combining all this information of the network. We're talking about big data now, with the data from the customer. So how can you leverage big data from network with customer-centric data such as ARPU? So you have the average revenue per user, and you also need to understand what is actually the quality that you're providing to these customers. So you have all this network data about the quality, the dropped calls, about the latency, all those network information, and you link it to the specific customers that are affected. This will allow you first to be able to decide where you are going to invest when it comes to providing, for example, from 3G to 4G merge transition, or to 4G to 5G in the future, because you know that in this specific area you have customers that are very valuable, and the congestion there may be high, and you're not going to provide the quality that is required. So these are all with the use of analytics, and they are already applied in telcos. Another area has to do, of course this is more operational from the side of the operator, has to do with monetization, CapEx monetization. This is an even more, let's say, important area. When it comes to deciding the exact, let's say, cost-benefit analysis, when you want to invest in a specific area, so you have to put some money there, what would be the expected revenue that we are going to generate? And this is a complex problem, because you need to model the behavior of the network with the inclusion of the new cell without having it beforehand. So how much new traffic this cell will attract? So all these are very complex questions that up until now were made from the operators, mainly using expert judgment or simple, let's say, past historic data. Now we are moving past that. So we need to be more predictive, to apply machine learning, to use all of that to the benefit not only of the operator but also of the customer, and at the end of the day be more competitive. And when it comes to the competition, you apply all those analytics in order to provide the customer a unified experience, because the customer interacts with you from the application, from the phone, from the actual retail store. So in all those different touch points, you need to provide a unified experience. And here you also have analytics to combine all this information and provide this unified experience. I can ramble on for hours for all those cases, but indeed the telco industry has too many examples of how advanced analytics and machine learning can be applied.
How do you think the behavior of the 2G, 3G, 4G customers evolve, and mainly how do you see the evolution to the 5G steps, because everything is going to change starting 5G. Are you preparing already yourself for the 5G era?
Yes, of course. This is the next step. A few years ago, we had many projects where we had to actually decide the rollout of 3G to 4G, and that's why we've had many projects which were on the area of value-based rollout. So of course now we've touched 4G. We are rolling out 4G in almost every area, especially when it comes to our region. And then you have to go to the next step, 5G. So of course 5G is, let's say, a big step, a big leap. I'm not sure that at the moment the operators are ready for that, but for sure this is something that will happen. I cannot tell you exactly when, but I'm sure that this will be in the next 5 years or so.
But could you please tell us a little bit from your vision, how do you perceive the 5G customer?
Everything connected. Everything connected. So you have everything linked, and you actually use the network for any single thing that you're doing. So if it's within the house, if it is outside, everything you do has to be linked with the pack that you will have. At the end of the day, we all generate data, and we all want to transmit those data. So I think that it will be, after a certain, let's say, point in time, a commodity to have the basic, let's say, interaction, and you want to go to the next step. The new generations that will come will not even, they will not even know what was the time when we have these dial-up connections, and now we're moving so fast. So I think since we're talking about an area of big data, this also transcends to the transmission of those data. So this generates all these, let's say, needs for quick networks. And customers in general, I think, are not so, let's say, patient anymore. So they expect to receive a certain, let's say, service level. And if you don't meet that, you will sooner or later be cast aside.
From your vast experience, how do you see our region? Do you think there are different requirements here from the customers in our CE region from the others?
Okay, yes, there are some, let's say, different levels of maturity, but I wouldn't say that it is, let's say, that much of a difference among the different companies compared to other industries. So, as I said in the beginning, the telco industry is a very highly competitive area. So I think one way or another, they are, of course, they're not all at the same level, but they are, let's say, close enough to each other. With regards to the overall maturity, I would say that it depends on the area. There are some areas where it comes to contextual marketing, where I think we're not there yet. Let's say, compared to some other examples I have in mind from the North EMEA territory or from the US. When it comes to some niche needs, such as the ones I described in the network, I believe we do have some, let's say, interesting use cases that are currently being, let's say, promoted to other, let's say, telco operators around the world. We actually have examples where, of course, you have a local, let's say, telecom operator, but he is part of a broader group. And we have cases where they act as a pioneer in the broader, let's say, network that they're under. So they actually provide use cases that are being served as a service to the whole group. So in that sense, I think we do have some pioneers. So it's not, let's say, black or white, but I do believe that we have some level of maturity in certain areas, and the gap between the operators is not that great compared to other industries.
And now at the end, to sum up the SAS Analytics Day, what would be your message for the Romanian telco operators?
I think that they all need to embrace all these changes. I think they do realize the importance of it from the interaction that we've had with the customers, from either from today or from other meetings that we've had. Of course, there are some problems with regards to some, let's say, cultural, let's say, changes that have to be made, especially when it comes to operators that are mainly public driven. So in this case, they're, let's say, more reluctant to change because they have learned to work in a certain way. But the wave, it's so big that they have no other option but to adapt. Because, as I said before, they have to adapt one way or another, otherwise they're not going to survive. Especially nowadays with all this disruption that they face, they're facing competition not only from other telco operators, but, as you know, from any kind of application that can be used to transmit messages from one to the other, using actually their own network underneath. And we have some cases from other territories where those telco operators are trying to, let's say, to compete against applications such as, for example, WhatsApp. And they create their own applications to provide the same level of service. But I'm not sure how successful this will be, because it's that much of, let's say, the exposure that those applications have at the moment, the network that they're having, that I'm not sure how can you defeat that. You have to find some other ways to defeat it. Because at the end of the day, what's the point of having a native application to transmit messages if you're only me and you that actually doing communication? You need to have a network. So in this case, I'm not sure if this battle can be won. But at the end of the day, telecom operators provide a very fundamental service. And for that reason, I think that they will get past it. It has only to do with the adaptability to the new environment.
You know that in our market there is a particularity, the high competition between the operators and the lowest prices, the lowest tariffs in Europe. And this is a particular case for you. Yeah,
of course, competition drives the... But what about the quality of service? Does this, let's say, change between the different operators? I mean, For example, in Greece, there are all kinds of measurements that actually calculate the quality of service. So you need to see what is the total from, let's say, the service provided and the actual value that is being required. So I'm not very familiar to the actual, for example, cell coverage here, but I'm sure it's not the same for all, is it? At the end of the day, if the prices go low, I think this is good for the consumer.
Yes, definitely, but not for the business.
Yeah, yeah, but you need to find other ways to generate revenue. I mean,
that's why you are saying the analytics parts will become a very, very, very important topic for them.
It's a matter of, let's say, survival. Because if all of them provide the same thing, it won't make a difference. But what about providing the exact thing that your customer wants?
Each customer
personalized wants, and when it's needed. So maybe they are now competing only on price, but they should be competing on the customer experience. And in order to compete that, you need the power of analytics and all these techniques.